the hate for Gonzaga has to stop. The whole, they don't play nobody. The conference isn't this. Listen, it's not 1999. It's not even 2005, 2006 anymore. Okay. I understand their conference is not the strongest conference. It has gotten a lot better. But when you look at some of those teams and everything like that, when you look at a team, don't look at who it is they're playing against and use that against them. Look at who's on the team. Look at the names on the roster. Look at the talent. I don't care. You could take Duke and put them in the fucking NEC or the SWAC or any of like those, one of those BS conferences and everything like that gets a one bid team for the NCAA tournament. Okay. The fact of the matter is they still have talent. They still have NBA caliber talent on the team. That's what Gonzaga is. So don't sit here and don't follow this outdated narrative that just because their conference is weak, that's the only reason why Gonzaga is this. That's the only reason why they're this. Okay. They score 100 points a game. Okay. I can understand if they're playing in that BS conference and, they have to grind out victories against some of like these, not as sought after teams and they're, winning a 60 to 55 game or something like that. They're playing against these second tier teams, which are not even second tier teams. Cause actually if you pay close attention to them, like they're beating big time teams, like the teams in their conference, but they're dropping 100 on every team. So they have a legitimate, lottery pick in Chet Holmgren, number one player. Andrew Nembhard's probably the best point guard in college basketball. Okay. They have 2 McDonald's All-Americans coming off their bench. One of them is Hunter Salas, who's going to be a stud next year. The other one is this kid, Nolan Hickman, who decommitted from Kentucky to actually go to GU. And Drew Timme is probably the best big man. Drew Timme is like he reminds me a lot of Tyler Hansborough, and that might not be the best NBA player. College basketball, though, he's a stud. He's unstoppable. And you know what? His career might end. He might go out the way Hansborough did as a champion and everything like that. So that's only my thing. That's my rant on Gonzaga. Is people got to stop with the Gonzaga hate. Stop hating on the West Coast Conference. I understand it's not the ACC. It's not the SEC. It's not one of those big time conferences and everything like that. But if you have a team that's getting the caliber of talent that Gonzaga is to go along with the caliber of talent they already have, no matter what conference you put them in, at the end of the day, they're going to be able to, and they've shown they can compete with big time teams. And that's my rant.
At some point, you got to look at the team it's constructed, how it plays against other really good teams, how it plays in big moments, and what they produce. Gonzaga does from time to time produce quality to good NBA talent. They, from time to time, do beat really good teams. Actually, when they're not playing in the national championship or the Final Four, they almost always beat good teams. That's just what they do. It's when they get to that national championship game, it just seems to be their kryptonite, right? But sure, we'll talk about that at some point further on. But the narrative that they're somehow inferior because they play in an inferior conference or whatever, it's stupid. It's just as stupid as the Boise State thing was 10 years ago when people were like, Boise State should never be in consideration for a national championship in college football. Dude, they churn out league, professional talent. They win games. They beat who they're supposed to beat. They beat all the good teams that want to actually schedule against them. What more do you want? Like, it's stupid. They're great players. Chet Holmgren is going to be the number one overall pick in all likelihood. Just stop it. The narrative is, if anyone's still pushing that narrative that Gonzaga is somehow not a quality team or not even like they're like just not a top 10 college basketball program, I'm like, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Gonzaga? No, they're chilling. They are elite in college basketball. You can take that to the bank.
That's it.
Look at that. You and I actually agree on something.
That's it. I mean, that was pretty much, that was my rant. I saw somebody making comments about how, Gonzaga is unbearable to watch until the NCAA tournament. It's like, what are you talking about? Did you not watch any of their preseason? The Gonzaga versus Duke game earlier this season was like the most watched game in the last 10 years in college basketball. Like, what do you mean they're unwatchable? Like, they obviously, they're not playing against, the same. They're not in a big-time conference that'll have their own network. Like the ACC has the ACC network, SEC has SEC network. But I mean, when you look at the guys on the roster and everything, like that's why I tell people, like, don't look at who they're playing against. Look at the names. Look at the guys on the roster. Like, look at, they got Chet Holmgren, #1 high school player in the country, going to be a lottery pick. Andrew Nemhard, best point guard in the country. Andrew Nemhard was a starting point guard of Florida for 2 years before transferring to GU. Drew Timme was a high 4-star fringe 5-star recruit coming out. Lacks athleticism, but around the basket, like I said, he reminds me a lot of Tyler Hansborough in just the way he plays and everything. And then all those other guys around them. Nolan Hickman decommitted from Kentucky. Nolan Hickman was a McDonald's All-American who decommitted from Kentucky to go play at GU. He's coming off the bench, and he's going to be a stud for them next year. They have a kid, Julian Strother, who was another one, ESPN top 50 recruit and everything like that. Didn't really play last year because of all the talent they had. Dude's coming on this year. Julian Strother can literally drop 25 a game if he really wanted to. Julian Strother would be probably the 1A on 98% of college basketball teams in the country. Like that's the kind of talent that these guys have on the roster. So don't sit here and look at the caliber of competition they're playing against and hold that against them. Look at the caliber of competition they're playing against and look at, how they're faring against it. I can understand if they were playing against second-tier competition and just barely squeaking by or something like that, but they're making, like, the reason why people say, like, oh, they play in a JV conference. Well, did you ever think it was because maybe they're so good they make those teams look like JV teams? Why? If you watch the Big East, I went to a Big East school. You watch the Big East, GU is better than every team in the Big East. If you put GU in the current Big East, they would win the Big East. Like they're not going to put up, they would still put up a very gaudy record. Like, they would win the Big East just because talent-wise, as well as the coaching and the leadership and the experience they have, they'd run through the Big East. And the Big East is going to get 6 teams in the NCAA tournament. So just to put that in perspective, that's a way to look at Gonzaga.
Hey everyone, we hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Until next time, keep it real.